I'm Russell Ferguson, the chair of the Department of Art at UCLA. Welcome to tonight's Visiting Artist Lecture by Marilyn Minter. This lecture series is made possible through the generous support of the William D. Feldman Family Endowed Lecture Fund, and we're also very grateful to the Hammer Museum for continuing to host these lectures here in the Billy Wilder Theatre. It's a great pleasure to have Marilyn Minter here tonight in a rare Los Angeles appearance for her. Marilyn Minter was born in Shreveport, Louisiana, and she lives in New York. Her work has been the subject of numerous solo exhibitions, including a one-person show at the San Francisco Museum of Modern Art in 2005. Her work was included in the 2006 Whitney Biennial and in group exhibitions including the Miami Art Museum, the Museum of Fine Arts in Boston, and MoMA in New York. Currently, she has solo exhibitions at the Contemporary Art Center in Cincinnati and at La Conservera in Murcia, Spain. Her video, Green Pink Caviar, which was featured in Madonna's recent tour, can also be seen now on digital billboards on Sunset Boulevard as a public art project in West Hollywood. And her first exhibition here at Reagan Projects opens this weekend, so I hope you'll all have a chance to see that either this weekend or afterwards. Please join me in welcoming Marilyn Minter.
Thank you so much for coming. If you want to open the curtain. This is so dramatic. I'm not used to high tech. In New York, everything falls apart. So I'm just going to start with, some people say this is my first body of work, but at the time that I took these pictures, I didn't know it. I was about 19 years old, and these are pictures of my mother, who was a drug addict in Florida, and this is just one roll of film, and it's one weekend worth of photos, so it's only 12 shots, and they all sort of worked out. And years later, I go through the whole history of my work, and I see that this thread runs through everything, this sort of debased glamour. But it was something I didn't know for years. It's just, one of those things I put together when I was in my 30s or 40s. So she was a very glamorous woman, and she was always high, and she wore nightgowns all the time. And I took her car to school, and she pulled out her hair. She had this, there's a name for it, where you break off your hair, and so she had to wear wigs. But she did constantly maintain her beauty. This is a picture of her dyeing her eyebrows. This is in Florida in a co-op. And this is her with her wig on. And I went to this school, University of Florida in Gainesville, and it was a very romantic art department, and it was a photography department, and so I brought these negatives in and I didn't think anything of it because this is just, I took pictures of my mom that one weekend. I didn't even think a thing about it, and the other students were kind of horrified by it, and my God, that's your mother. And so I said, well, I'm not showing these again. And there was these waves of shame that came over me. So that was just like a little hint of what my body of work came from, and these are the first paintings I ever made. These were undergraduate paintings at the University of Florida, and I'm just teaching myself how to paint, and I just thought that a lot of you are students, so I wanted you to see how bad I could. First, I should tell you this, that there probably in this lecture, I could probably have 200 other slides for every slide you're seeing. So this is the absolute best I can do. I've culled it down, so I want to make sure you know that. So this is when I was in graduate school. I started painting really banal, boring things that I thought were kind of interesting. For me, they were interesting, just the shapes. And I was really just teaching myself how to paint. And I just threw these, I took this linoleum and glued it down to a wooden floor with these paper double-faced tape and just threw things down on the floor and started, and take a photograph of it and painted it, because I majored in photography. And this is just aluminum foil and 2x4s, and these are the curls, the paper curls themselves that I used to back the linoleum. And these actually sort of go together, because this is just a piece of plywood, and then this is the paper curls, and then I also took the photos, the black and white photos of them that what I was painting, and put all three of them together. So it was sort of a conceptual piece, but I didn't know what I was doing. This was in the 70s, right after I moved to New York City. And eventually, the floors kept getting emptier and emptier, and this is just a spill of the diet drink at the time, Tab. This Tab. And sometimes I just would throw dust, on the floor and paint dust. So it was going to nothingness. So I decided, well, I'll start painting these photos. And I just started making paintings of, in this case, a Polaroid. But then I started painting black and white photographs. And I just blew it up slightly. At that time, that's the kind of photography that everyone was doing. Nobody was doing color in the art world, so to speak. And so these were 8x10s that I blew up to about, 12x14, something like that. And I left the rest of the canvas raw. So here's one I backed off a little more, and I just staple gunned the canvas to the wall, and years later they look pretty good to me. But so that's why I'm showing them now. And these are some of the I would do the black and white photos, and then I played around with focus and no focus. So I always had this ability. I should start with the fact that I could always copy anything, and I saw that right away. But I couldn't figure out anything. I couldn't figure out what I could do with it. Modernism just didn't appreciate it at all. Everybody could make things accurately, and this was during in the 70s, and when I first moved to New York City, and there was this movement called photorealism, and I would have those dealers over, and they said, well, your work is really boring. It's photorealism, but it's so boring, and it's not shiny, and it's not bright. So it was where gumballs were, machines, and Chuck Close and Richard Estes, and the really interesting ones, those weren't the ones those are not the kind of galleries I was going to. So it was right in this time that German Expressionism just surged on to Manhattan, and it was all the people like the names you really remember, like Kiefer and Polka, but also the American artist Julian Schnabel. It was really painterly time. And so I didn't, I really I was a young artist. I wanted to fit into the dialogue. So I knew I had this my way of working was so analytical, and I built these things up, this kind of photorealist gestures, but I didn't have that fluid. I knew I couldn't make that fluid sweeping gesture, or the gestural mark, which was prominent in that era of art making in New York City. And if I tried to make it, it looked phony. I could copy it because I could copy anything, but it never looked sincere. It was never seamless. So what I ended up doing is I actually worked with a German artist, and we painted on top of one another. And he put down an image, and he didn't know what I was going to do, and so it was very, very contentious because we were constantly painting on top of one another. And if any of you I know there's a lot of young artists in the audience, but artists, they're egomaniacs, and the idea that someone's going to paint on top of you was very contentious, and we had a lot of fights, and so eventually, everyone thought we were going to break up, and no one would buy these paintings, and so we did. And these were, but I learned a lot from him. It was a really good experience for me because I learned that, all these different techniques, and I learned, like he used to collaborate with Sigmar Polka, so he always projected from a slide projector, and he taught me about turning images into Velox dots, which was the way that our newspaper prints, or all magazines were printed at the time. It was before computers, and it was all dot screens. And Polka would just take a newspaper and blow it up, and the dots would really be prominent. And so I would take images and change them into this dot screen and then project them. And I started using enamel paint. I really didn't know what to do. I wanted to change what I was doing as an artist, and I didn't know what to do. So after working with him, I thought, I'm going to give up this painterly technique that comes so easy to me. I can't do anything fresh with it. I can't do anything interesting with it. I'm just going to, make art. I'm going to get some distance from it. And so this was, the first painting I didn't destroy. I made a lot of really bad ones, and inside here there's let's see, this is a little fracture, and it was this image I found. This is a really famous picture of these actresses, Sophia Loren and Jane Mansfield, and this one was a silk screen with, I put this red plastic on top, and this is a fractured image of this little girl in a funhouse mirror that I found in the encyclopedia. So I considered this side, it was an installation. This side was the big girls, and then these were the little girls looking in the funhouse mirror. And so it was a whole room of these images. And I was just learning, how to paint this enamel paint, and there were some areas where I sanded it just to, just see what it would do, and change the colors. And then I started not painting it all in, or and then I started getting other people to paint for me. And so I would, have someone do, have the projector on, and we turned all these images into dot screens, and there would be two of us painting. We'd have the projector on the whole time, and I just totally gave up my skill level because I couldn't figure out a way to use it. I didn't see anything interesting anyone could do with realism, that hasn't already been done. I mean, after all, it's, the one mode of art making that have been around for thousands of years. And then at the same time, I saw some paintings of Gerhard Richter, enamel paintings of paint swatches, and I saw that they were cracked. They were made in the 60s, and this was in the 80s, and I saw how cracked they were, and I thought I better take this enamel paint and put it on metal. So then these next paintings, I started working, not that one, but this was the first one I did that's on metal. And I just was playing around with how I could fracture the image. And this next one, I also at the same time was pop riveting these Mylar silk screens onto the metal surface too. So I was playing around. So these were my prints. I considered these prints. And this is, they're just they're silk screens on Mylar that are layered up and pop riveted to metal. I thought that was really this ephemeral Mylars. With this, hard metal underneath, and sometimes I would even paint some color underneath. And these were blueprints that I was playing around at the same time with the blueprint. These were like I considered drawings. I never drew anymore. So these were what my all these silk screens, and these are what I considered drawings. And it was like, for me, that's what they were. They were like defined what the paintings were going to be. I would play around with these first. So then here's the first painting where I actually started using my skill again, and I painted, instead of it all Dalmatian dog being in a screen of dots, and I think there's a close-up. So I started modeling with enamel, which is really difficult to do. I was still using brushes at this time because it dries so fast, and I was used to working with oil paint, and it was the first time that I tried to make anything that was three-dimensional, create three-dimensional, and sort of using my skill again. And these are still the dot screens. That this is my first foray into working with makeup, and I sort of liked the idea. These were all other people were painting them. They were painting the this was all made out of dots. And I was thinking of the idea of traces, female traces, and lipstick on napkins, and lipstick on cigarettes, and there were just images I found in fashion magazines and just turned them into dot screens. And I started letting enamel paint drips naturally. So I started just letting it happen instead of constantly cleaning it up, which is what I was doing. And I thought, well, this makes sense, to just try, it's fake mechanization, like let this paint, like create this illusion of spontaneity with drips, and then I would try and nail it in place with this dot screen that I was projecting. These are still dots, even though in this section I sanded it. These are giant paintings, so they're going up to like 6 feet by 8 feet at this point. They were just getting emptier and emptier. And I was erasing. I was thinking of myself as Cy Twombly, actually, with his white paint erasing these dots. So then this is the same time I was playing around with this M&Ms, and the M&Ms were really, I was thinking about Larry Poons, and I don't know if any of you know his work, but he did these ellipses back in the 60s with these complementary colors, so that if you looked at the painting and you looked away, you would see optical illusion of these ellipses. So it's like looking at spots. And so I tried to create that same thing, only with M&Ms, Marilyn Minter. And if one of the M's turned sideways, it says me. So they were like me, 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 me. That's all, self-involved artist. I'm not much, but I'm all I think about. And this is like a little squares. I would break up the space. They were very big. And then I was thinking about, I got off of Larry Poons. I thought, well, these are Armani colors, because Armani was all, his clothing was everywhere. And I'll use the same thing with these Armani colors, and these really subtle colors. Marilyn Minter, me, me, me. So now this is the next body of work, and we're talking, I'm just playing still. I'm still not really sure what I want to do. I always thought art's about ideas. I had the skill level. I never could figure out how to make it work for me. And so I just, I was still learning about enamel. It takes a long time for me. Maybe it takes other people a lot. They can much quicker, but mine was very slow. And I thought about, I wanted to make a TV commercial. And I thought, well, I have to figure out, I want to make a TV commercial to advertise a show. And I didn't want to use art magazines. I wanted to take that same money to buy an ad in Art Forum or Art in America and buy time on network television. And I thought, well, what I could do is make a lot of these paintings. These are like 101 I call them food porn. And I got them all from recipe books. And everyone always talks about me painting women, but I've always painted men too. It just nobody seems to notice. And of course, everything I'm showing you is female hands, but there are male hands that are coming up, I promise. But this is where I really let it drip. I let the paint drip, and then I tried to. It was sort of this fake mechanization and fake expressionism, and. See, all female hands. You're never going to believe me. These are all projected, and I would do the underpainting, and then my assistants would paint the dot screens. Now we raised some money, and we bought time on David Letterman, Arsenio Hall, and Nightline. This was back in 1989. So. Just for instance, I'm going to ask the audience, how much money do you think it was to rent 30 Seconds on David Letterman? Take a guess. Late night television. Yeah. 100,000. Now, I'm a poor artist in New York City, right? 30 Seconds on David Letterman. Think about it. You're only paying it for the tri-state area or, the New York area. You're not buying it all over the country, and people don't know that. They still don't know it. It was only $1,800. And it, and this was late night television. So The commercial, what we did is I paid everybody off in these paintings, and everyone that worked on it, and we let's see, and then the sound person, the director, and anyway, we aired these, and we didn't buy any advertising in art magazines. We used that same amount of money. So
in which in which our effort in the Middle East collapses.
Let me ask you just to take a break for a second. We've got to take a quick break, and I'll come back and let you continue that thought when we continue our conversation with Henry Kissinger and James Webb in a moment.
What is this, like incense? You put incense or something in there?
It's a microphone, actually.
Oh, that's decent. But see, you knew that, and I
but
didn't.
no one-
That's the point.
You were in Philly saying, well, we got to take commercial. Take commercial,
Already?
we'll come right back, and our mothers will be out here, and they'll fight for a while. We'll be right back. Right back.
Two of your favorites, M&M's and peanut butter, are together at last. Introducing M&M's peanut butter chocolate candies. Pure milk chocolate, real peanut butter, your favorite chocolate candy, now with creamy peanut butter. New M&M's peanut butter chocolate candies. The best thing to happen to peanut butter since jelly.
So that was it. And at the time, since nobody had ever advertised a show on, oh, there's a male hand, thank God. I knew they were in here. Advertised a show on late night television at that point. I got some press. I got quite a bit of press because this is the first time that a TV commercial had shown a commercial gallery. And and I thought a lot of people would start doing this, but it was right at the time of the first crash that I lived through, the first art market crash, and the money just fled the art world. So it didn't happen really, but this is the next body of work I started to do, and it all came from going to see a show at Metro Pictures of Mike Kelly. And I saw that this really brilliant artist made a body of work I thought of it as working with this adolescent teenage girl's mind, 12 or 13-year-old girl, like unicorns and mall and glitter, and he had this just chest of drawers with decoupage lips and eyes on it, and he had stuffed animal paintings and stuffed animal sculptures, and I thought it was just absolutely brilliant. And it got me thinking about what imagery had female artists never touched or worked with. And what hit me was hardcore pornography. And I thought, oh, well, it makes sense. I should see what I can do with hardcore pornography. And it was it was late 80s, 89, middle of really tough political correct thinking. But there was this nascent pro-sex feminist movement at the time. And I thought everybody was thinking like me, pro-sex feminists. And my thinking was, nobody has politically correct fantasies. And women just are not owning these images, I want to see women make images for their own sexual pleasure or their own pleasure. And I wasn't necessarily doing that. I wasn't making images that turned me on. I was trying to find images that I thought were compelling or were people having a good time. And but it was like, you know, I had started having people come over to my studio and they were like saying, you can't show this. And I just didn't understand, you know, what I was up against. I was pretty naive, actually. I think you can ask questions. I think as an artist, you know, and it's like I had any choice in the matter. But I was asking these questions, but I didn't have any answers because I didn't know what the answers were. I was working between those, you know, that maybe there wasn't an answer, you know, like trying to reclaim a very abusive history and trying to own it and trying to see what would happen if I did this. And I got excoriated, basically, by the art world, and I felt like I got thrown out of the art world. And this was a pain. I thought they were funny. I called this one the Singers. The Supremes. I'm sorry, the Supremes. It's even better. Yeah, this is Rosebud. I thought they were humorous and compelling imagery. And my dealer shut the show down a week early. I should say I did get some support from some other artists, so that's why I kept, you know, I didn't, but I was pretty horrified. And, you know, when you work with sexual imagery and you're getting criticized, you know, it's very shame-based. And so, you know, there was a part of me that said, well, if I'm, you know, if I'm going to get in a lot of trouble, then, you know, I'm going to make them even more, you know, outrageous. And so I tried to make them, you know, more salacious, really, but I started losing interest in it, and nobody was defending this position at this time. But I did meet a whole bunch of pro-sex feminist women at the time, and we sort of, all of them were taking risks and being transgressive, and we sort of had a meeting like once a month, and we're reading things and looked at you know, all kinds of things throughout history and sort of supported each other. Some of them lost their NEA grants, that kind of thing, or, you know, the same kind of thing, the political correctness from the left, which was, you know, what we were not used to as artists, basically. And so I was feeling so beat up by my peers that I started beating up my paintings. And so I would take the metal and start pouring acid on it and start sanding. And this is like I let the dot screen go. I started painting again. And I learned this technique that I could soften these edges in model if I just used my fingertips, these two fingers. And sort of like beat up the paintings. And these are this is that series. And it took me a lot. And the first work I made after this couple of years of making this work was pretty awful. So these are the first ones. That was about a year of really just one awful painting after another. So this is the first body of work after that. And well, actually, this is still in there. This is, you know, you'd think I'd be familiar with my own lecture, but I've changed it for you, and this is a brand new lecture for me because I now have videos to show, and so it's an 8-minute video, so I had to take out a lot of slides. So this is you are seeing the first time I've shown this. So if I don't know what's coming up, it's because I don't know what's coming up. So this is still through that period of beating up the paintings. But I sort of slowly came out of it, and I started working with a dot screen with metal paint on top of metal. But I sort of like just naturally went into working with popular culture imagery that I found. And this is right when the internet came in, and I started playing around in Photoshop and elongating the images, taking images that were already in the culture, like these are old-fashioned tattoos, turning them into dot screens, and then just changing them in Photoshop. And this is the first image, the first body of work I did where I started taking my own pictures again. And I thought, well, you know, I was working with these glamorous images, so I thought, well, I would shoot these drag queens. And this was a friend of mine who dressed in lingerie for me. And that's his armpit. So I'm just learning how to paint this. This is like with the body of work that, you know, that I'm doing now, really. But I'm learning how to paint. I'm still working from my photos. I'm still working from an actual photograph. I'm not changing it that much in Photoshop. They're my photos, though. They're when you know, and I'm still working with film. I think digital cameras weren't even around when I first started. So it's that same guy in lingerie. And this is an armpit. Now, this is a photo. This is the first time I started showing the photos and the paintings in the same room. And so at this point I was just making paintings from photos that I took, and then also showing other photos that I thought were, this is an armpit, and I thought it was just perfect, and I wouldn't paint it. It was a great photo. In my mind, it was a great photo, so why would I make a painting of it? And now this is a painting of a belly button. And I started trying to not show which gender it was. And here's when I first started changing the imagery in Photoshop. And this is a combination. This was a belly from one photo. This was a bathing suit from another. And this is the same time trying to learn about painting and sort of changing it a little bit in Photoshop. And this was an 11-year-old girl with lipstick on with braces. And now I'm going to show you these are some of the things that same body of work would be in the same room. This would be a photo, and this would be a painting. So I wanted to show you the difference. And this was still, I don't know, I haven't changed it that much. Right now, all of the paintings, any paintings I make are totally made up. But at the time, they weren't. This is a painting, I started working with wet, dirty feet. I thought everybody gets dirty feet. And they can have really nice manicures, pedicures rather. So this would be a photo from this time period. And I just left it alone and showed it as a photo. And this would be the painting. And this painting, for instance, was, that drip was from another photo. I just altered it. I didn't even use Photoshop. I just would change it up. So I always thought of the paintings as, I was always going after paintings when I was taking the photo. And this is a painting. But if the photo turned out well, then I'd use it. I thought of it as a drawing. So this was about, I don't know, 8 years ago or so. And then this was, sometimes I would just keep shooting on this is when I first started using this model. I use quite a bit. She's one of my ex-students, and she's 2 generations of black and white. And she's covered in freckles. And, this is a photo, and I mean, she's just a gorgeous girl. And then this is a painting I made from her. She's got, really full lips and curly hair, but she's got really white skin, and she's covered in freckles. So I started looking for these mixed race people to work from, because they just were so interesting to my eyes. And so I took a lot of photos of this young lady. I still use her actually. Now she's a school teacher. And this is another model I worked with a lot, Devon Aoki. She's Japanese and German, real beautiful girl. And these are photos. This was actually the makeup artist after the shoot. I just kept shooting. She had all these piercings. And that same girl, again, she's biting into a quail's egg. This is called drool. And this is called vomit. So this is, just a regular fashion trope. And I just, in fashion world, they would take these images and they would, just kiss the jewelry very lightly. And in my images, I just, the photo shoots, I was trying to see what would happen if, they're just too much. I would just take these normal, fashion tropes and just push them a little bit. And till she started to, basically vomit the pearls out. This is a painting. This is called Bullet. These are all paintings of that same model. And now I found somebody with really full lips and real jewelry. All my jewelry at this point was from Patricia Fields or, paste. And so this woman had actual, diamonds. And so she let me, she was gracious enough to stick them in her mouth. This is called, I think, Deep Throat. These are photos. This is a photo. This is Vampire. Now this is $1 million necklace that she has in her mouth. Serpent. This is called Serpent. And at the same time, you know, I'm doing these really glamorous shots. I'm also very interested in, oh, just like, you know, like hair clips or, you know, what, armpits or this is just when you pull the lines down, the socks down, you'll have lines on your legs. And these are ordinary things that happen to my work isn't surreal. It just was what can happen. It's not, you know, made up. So these are paintings. And at this point, I think all of the paintings now are starting to be totally made up. This one isn't though, actually, but they're like parts from different negatives that I had scanned. I'm still working with film because I work so close. I would love to go digital, but it's I'm still too in love with the depth. And these are paintings, but this is a painting, but also a painting. Then I started working with I started being able to get donations from really, you know, expensive shoes. And so I did this whole photo shoot of like dancing all night, you know, if you were dancing all night. And this is what the paintings look like up close. This is the fingerprints. If you get the chance to go see my show, I know that I'm called a photorealist in every single article ever written, but I'm really not one because I'm nothing wrong with it, but I'm not criticizing photorealism, but the thrill for a photorealist painter is usually being able to get up close and having it still look exactly like a photo. But my paintings are just combinations of moments, and they're softened, and this is what they look like up close, and they sort of fall apart. So they really aren't. I'm more like a photo replacer. That's what I call myself. With painting still, and this is a painting. And this is like totally made up image. Really, the whole background's made up. Muddy shoes. And I think the next body of work. I started, this is right when I got invited to be in the Whitney Biennial, and I'd worked with Creative Time to do these billboards in Manhattan, and these were just some of the images that I took to blow up for billboards. And and they were just, you know, I like the idea of being able to, I love it when it happens to me when I'm going somewhere and I see an image that just doesn't make sense. Oh, I didn't even know I did this. These are all the foot paintings and photos. So these are the photos, and this is what I would lose. I would lose this kind of definition and depth if I work digitally. I can't lose that. There's a richness that I'm not, and a flatness that, there's a richness in film that I don't find in digital yet. They just don't, not if you're as close as I am. So I'm still working strictly with film, but when I make a painting, and this is a painting, I do, this is totally made up. This heel was from one negative. I scan the negatives and then I just work in Photoshop. And this is totally different heel, totally different jeweled surface. And maybe this background exists with this, but I don't remember now. This is the last of the feet paintings. These are pretty big. And then these are the billboards that I made, and I put these in with Creative Time all around Chelsea, which is the art district in Manhattan. And I just like the idea of having an image that would maybe be arresting. Hopefully it'd be arresting that, you know, just stop for a minute and look at it. It's not advertising anything, but it was just like the digital billboards that are here now on Sunset. I just want, you know, somebody to get some pleasure. I love it when I don't know what something means and I just see it on a subway car or an ad somewhere. And I was trying to create that same feeling with these billboards. So these are some of the new, the photos I was taking at the same time. This is a painting that was in the Whitney Biennial, and also it was a blue-eyed African model, and also a couple of different negatives. This is really large. These are pretty big paintings. And this is a photo. I was trying to group them together. Then I started getting more and more abstract with, I used just regular Nikon or Context camera with a macro lens, so there's no trickiness at all. They're really conventional photography, darkroom techniques. This is a painting of, well, she looked like this little putai, but she's really the daughter of, I was doing this commission for Peter Brandt, whose wife was Stephanie Seymour, and they always ask artists to do a portrait of Stephanie. And so this is the one I did. It's called It's Mine. And this is, she has 4 children, and all the other people that have, she's this really beautiful model. Most people do images of her that are about her glamour and her beauty, and I thought I'd see if I could do something with her and her children. This is her youngest daughter. But her daughter just looks so much to me like this Renaissance child, little angel. So I made these little tiny side paintings of her. So this is a few years ago. And this is some of the preview of the work in my show that's opening on Saturday at Reagan Projects. This is Pamela Anderson, and I don't know, one summer I was working in my studio upstate, and I got a phone call from her friend David LaChapelle, and he said, well, he wanted to commission me to make a painting of Pam for her wedding. And I got a phone call from Pamela Anderson. I said, well, sure, she's an American icon. And I thought, well, this will be fun. But I was really busy. I wasn't thinking about it. And then the wedding broke up. So the marriage broke up with Kid Rock. So, I thought, well, he's not going to want a wedding present. But at the same time, I got invited to be a collaborator with Parkette. And I thought, oh, I know, I'll put her in the centerfold of Parkette, because they wouldn't even know what a centerfold was. This Swiss intellectual art magazine, and I thought it would really be funny. And they put her on the cover. They didn't know what it was. I had to make a fax drawing and send it to the mail. But I knew she was really going to be quite beautiful, because I could tell from her bone structure. I'd seen pictures of her, but I also did a lot of research. And I also knew that she was very much a hardcore animal rights activist. And I just assumed that, I really still do, I guess. I could be wrong. I'm sure there's exceptions. But that, she was very empathetic, and she, couldn't tolerate any, this is the centerfold one that was in the Parkette. She could not tolerate any cruelty towards animals. So I thought, if I took the makeup off and gave her some bangs, I'll go back. And, you could see this really empathetic, pretty, woman. And I like the idea of taking icons and doing something, you won't see necessarily something you would expect. And she was totally game for it. She worked with Richard Prince, and she worked with Jeff Koons, and she likes working with artists. So, she was very brave to do this, to take all her makeup off and get in the shower and let me shoot her for 2 days. And this is a painting I made, and this is a total composite from different images. And it took me it took me about a year to make it. I kept having to change the face, the mouth, because I thought if I just had the famous, she has this famous tattoo of barbed wire, you'd know it was her. But I really needed that mouth. So this is a preview of my show on Saturday, and this is called Wettest Pam. And this is a large painting in the show. And this is Tan Line, also in the show. And now I'm going to this next body of work, which is dear to my heart, and it's this whole Freckles series. And this is a photo, and I work with a lot of models with freckles. So, because as I said, they're always erased, and I like the idea of using, these are freckles and pimples, I should say, and I've done that too a lot, but they're really, just something that does exist, and this is that same model I love working with. This is a photo, and then this is a freckled model I use quite a bit. She's also in the Green Pink Caviar, my video. So I just wanted to gang all the freckled pictures together, because I want to see what they look like, all together. because it takes me so long to make a painting. I never, one day I'm going to have them all in the same room, or all the bubbles in the same room. But this is the Freckles series, and that's just a big old painting of a shoulder. And it was so much fun to work with. And that's like I said, I do paint males. This is a guy with a tattoo and pearls on. And that's his shoulder. And he has a picture of his daughter on his shoulder. And I thought she looked like she was crying, so I thought, oh, that would make a nice painting. Now here's the beginning of the bubble series. I also really love doing these bubbles, and I did a lot of these photo shoot. I did a lot of them when I was doing an editorial. So I did this whole Freckles series for Allure magazine, and half of the paintings that I just showed you were are from, I just asked just shot at overtime. Or, between takes and stuff. I just said, will you put this bubble gum in your mouth? This was like when I was working with Tom Ford. I used this model and I just said, blow on this bubble, blow this up. And these are paintings. So this is the whole bubble series. I've got them all ganged together here. And this is a combination, bubbles and freckles. And also totally made up imagery. Do you know what I mean when I say made up imagery at this point? Like the paintings are totally, there isn't a photo that exists of this. I hope I made that clear. This is a close-up. Freckles and bubbles. And this is some of the pieces you'll see if you come on Saturday at Reagan Projects. And this was a really great project. I was walking down Houston Street in Manhattan, and I saw this somebody with a shopping bag, and the tongue had some yellow paint on it on the shopping bag, and then all of a sudden it was like a physical reaction, just like, whoa. And I thought, I have to do something with painting with my tongue. So I staged this photo shoot with Candy, and I used the same makeup artist, and she knew how to work with bakery products, and so this is just meringue with a little blue food coloring, and licking it and painting with my tongue. This is called I Heart You. These are the still photos. And while I was shooting this, my makeup artist took my video camera and started shooting me, shooting the model. And then I went under the glass and started shooting the model too. And this is like before she started licking it, so it's not wet yet, and this is a dry version. And these are all the dry versions. And so I thought it looked so good, we staged it again, and I actually staged it during a commercials job that I was working on, and every time the model would change her eye makeups, it was for MAC actually, for an eye makeup ad. And they really paid for the whole thing. It was just wonderful, and they were really nice about it. They didn't complain, and so whenever I changed the eye makeup, I would just say, "Would you come over and lick up this candy?" And I didn't ask when they said, "What kind of model do you want?" And I said, "Well, can you give me your model with the longest tongue?" So these are the giant paintings that came out of this shoot. So out of this, we made this video. So that was the video, and then we made it I made it really to show with Reagan Projects, but we decided, to distribute it, to anybody. It wasn't like selling it as an addition of video because I wasn't known as a video artist, and through a couple of different sources, Madonna, one of them being Reagan Projects and one of them being somebody in Manhattan, Madonna saw the video, and she had already owned a couple of my photographs, so she asked if I think for my first thing I heard was, I think Marilyn will be too expensive if I want to buy this for the tour, and so I said, well, how much would I have to pay her to do this? And so it was just like one of these serendipitous things, and she said, yes, she really wanted to do it. And the next thing I know, she sent me flowers, and then she sent me tickets to go to London to see the beginning of the Sticky and Sweet tour. So I have a little clip of what she did with that video that you just saw. So here goes. That was just a 30-second clip. But if you want to see the whole thing, you could go to the website, Green Pink Caviar, and there's, I just took that clip off of YouTube, and all of them were just something I took off YouTube, and if you want to see how, I thought she was very respectful. They were like 3 stories high, and it was just a treat to watch this. So, okay, I'll show you the next thing I was doing, and this is a friend of mine, Wangechi Mutu, and I was photographing her because she was pregnant, and we're actually working on a collaboration right now. But I used that same mixture that I learned from the food porn of the gold and suspended in vodka. She's pregnant when I took these pictures, so I had to make sure she stayed healthy and spit out the vodka. And these are my take on what on this portrait that she wanted. And these are some of the things I got out of it. But she's making collages out of the full body. But we're just getting started. So these are some of the photos that I'm just about to do something with now. And I'm also making some paintings. And so one thing really just led into another, and it was just out of that I started shooting again of these feet, kicking through that silver vodka food coloring mix. And so this is actually wallpaper that I'm making right now and this is just the very beginning of this body of work. So I think that's about it. So thank you for coming and listening to me.
Hi, Marilyn. Thank you for the talk. I knew you were also a teacher, aside from being a painter, but I didn't know you were a commercial, or that you worked in the commercial fashion world.
Well, I do mostly editorial. I've only done 2 advertising jobs.
Okay.
Yeah, ever.
And
editorial is, no money.
Right.
It's like people just volunteer, basically.
So does that mean spreads in fashion magazines, or?
Well, I've never done fashion, but I've done beauty. Like I just, fashion, beauty meaning close, jewelry or makeup. I've never done a whole human being.
Oh, okay.
Is that Anna Sue?
Yeah, hi.
Yeah, this is my student back in SVA. Anybody else? Yeah, oh, hi. You want to wait for the mic?
Hi, my name is Robert, and I was curious about your wallpaper, if that's in production, or is there going to be different colorways? Is it
No, that's
one-
the first one, and it's Maharam. Yeah, Maharam is doing it.
Fantastic. Thank you.
Sure.
Hi, Marilyn.
Are they going to do fabric too?
No.
This wallpaper.
No.
Hi, Faye.
Hi.
Hi.
Oh, hi, Faye.
Hi, how's it going? Nice.
I don't think I know anybody in LA, and it's not true.
I just wanted to talk about the reference you made to the first like art world recession that you went through.
Yeah.
I mean, like as an artist, I find it challenging in a whole other way now than it has been for me. And I was wondering if you could speak on that a little bit and like how it felt then and how it feels now, and if you have any advice for young artists.
No, I think that, the creative process is just pretty, it's pretty overwhelming. I mean, if this is what you have to do, you figure out ways to do it. And I mean, it could be a blessing and a curse, you can't work with, expensive materials, but artists always find a way, and I wasn't supported financially as an artist ever until just the last few years. But, there are other, they're teaching. There's always, I always tell young artists that, you don't have to be a commercial artist. You don't fall through the cracks and become a homeless person. There are this whole entire support system of, working in galleries and working for other artists, working in construction and galleries and installing. And there's a real healthy system, I think. But, most of the time people don't have money. It's gravy is the money part is gravy. I've always felt like I would pay people. I would pay someone to do what I do. For years, I had everything just piled up in the racks. So I think there's no rules. It's just everyone finds their own way. I think there's no advice at all. If you get enough pleasure out of making your work, nothing can stop you.
Hi. By what criteria do you decide whether a photograph is to become a painting or to stay a photograph?
Well, when I first started, it was just real clear to me that was like a photo was something that I wouldn't touch at all, and the things that became paintings were images that I would alter. And now, the things that become paintings never existed at all. They're all totally combinations of different negatives. But it's a very subjective. Hi.
Hi. So you were talking about the commercialism or the lack of commercialism that your work stands for. And I know in addition to the wallpaper, you've got skateboards. And so it takes on a lot of different forms. Do you feel like it's a criticism or some kind of a, you know what I mean? What's your critical take on that?
Well, I don't have a critical take on it.
Neutral. It seems like you don't.
Does it look like I'm criticizing anything?
That's because sometimes it feels almost like a criticism. The gratuity and all that.
Well, who am I to criticize anybody?
Right.
I just feel like I make a picture of what I think already exists, and I really sincerely think that glamour and fashion give people enormous amount of pleasure, and at the very same time, you have that sense of you're never going to look that good. So I'm just trying to make an image of what it feels like to look, and it's not this simple black and white, paradigm. It's a paradox, and both of these things are going on at the same time. And I'm trying to reflect that in the work that I do. If there wasn't advertising, you wouldn't know what to buy.
What about the distribution of things like the skateboards or the wallpaper?
Well, skateboards. Supreme asked me to put images on skateboards. I'm in my 50s. That was a flattering moment in my life. You think you'd turn that down?
Never, never. I think it's great.
Hi, Marilyn. My name's Alex. I love your work. I wanted to ask, I noticed, well, I'm sure everybody noticed that for a long time you've used very, very saturated colors and lots of them. And I wonder, was there ever a time where you were doing that and finding that it kind of marginalized you in any way? That people were saying, oh, that's just too colorful?
Oh, I think that there's always that dilemma. If things are looking too flashy, you know, or too good looking, there's an automatic, you know, response. I think critical response sometimes because it's too simple, it's too easy, it's too likable, and you know, I can't really think about that. I have to. I know what you're talking about, but I think that I always go for, well, is it going to look good in 100 years or 50 years or 20 years? You know, I don't care really that if there is that that wall that people can't get beyond, even like commercialism. I try and stay on this tightrope of you know, never falling into totally fashion or totally commercialism. But I'm a parasite on the fashion, commercial, glamour world. And if being slightly outside it means I can see it, and so it's just that's the worst criticism. I can live with that.
Okay, thank you.
Here's somebody down there.
Hi, Marilyn. I'm Christine. You mentioned earlier that you like to push the envelope to, you know, reach to what was too much. Do you think that too much will ever become too much for you?
Say that again.
You mentioned earlier that...
No, I heard that part, but too much, I didn't hear you.
Will too much ever be too much for you?
Well, there's always balance. You know, I'm sure probably, yeah. I mean, I see success totally ruin artists all the time. And would you ever think success could hurt your art? But getting successful as old as I am, I've really been able to watch how dangerous success can be. I mean, it's a lot easier to be successful than it is to fail. But you know, you gotta stay right-sized through everything and find the balance through anything. And you know, that's my goal. But it's new for me. Success is new for me. So I don't even know why I went right to success. But when you say too much, I was thinking, well, too much, you know, good stuff. Yeah, there's probably excess of it. Yeah.
Hi, Marilyn. You had mentioned earlier when you were doing the pornographic work that you didn't feel as much support sort of in the art world. What encouraged you to keep moving forward in that vein rather than just completely changing perspective?
Well, I kept wishing that I could stop it. You know, I really mean it. I would have given anything if I just could stop. I just couldn't stop. And the lack of, I did have a support system, which was how I probably did get through. I had artists that were very supportive and well-known artists. But it was there was a time when they couldn't even defend me. It would have been too dangerous for them. And now that I look back on it, I'm really glad I did it. I have no regrets. But, you know, I even in the middle of it, there were days where I was inconsolable. But, you know, it all works out. It all worked out okay.
Can you tell us who the support system, who those women were?
Well, they weren't all women.
They weren't all women.
Yeah, I'd be glad to. Katie Dolan was a big supporter, and Jack Pearson, and Jessica Stockholder. You know her work. She came over to my studio, and I didn't even know her. She just called me up on the phone and said she wanted to come to my studio. And I thought, what does she want? She's really successful. She just had a show at DIA. And I thought, oh, she must want a job at SVA, you know. And she came over, and we ate lunch. And I thought, what does she want? I never, you know, nothing. And then she, at the end of the visit, she said, you know, your work really bothers me, and it really upsets me, and it's making me really think that it must be important. And what can I do to support you? And I mean, you know, this is like a lovely moment, right? And so we traded. Which is, you know, and she took one of the nastiest pieces I ever made. She has it up in her living room. And see, Jack Pearson, okay, Mary Heilman was a big supporter, with Laurie Simmons. There were people. Jan Avjikos was a writer at the time, and she wrote for Art Forum. She totally supported what I was doing. But I understood where I was coming from, fear, and I understood the fear, but you know, it's like I didn't have any choice in the matter.
So it wasn't actually the women that, or the artists that were making work about like Carolee Schneemann or.
Oh yeah, they
those-
were always supportive.
They were always
Yeah,
supportive
no, that was my supports. But most of the people I was in this group with were all academics, and they were all. One of them was a woman that would change gender. She became a man, and she teaches in England right now. Nobody has a clue that she was ever female at one time, and one of them was Holly Hughes, who got her grant denied by the NEA, and we were all just trying to figure out what was going on. And there was they were wonderful to talk to. We were really exploring artists that had made transgressive moments, like Pasolini Salo. We would look at that. We looked at all the films Jeff Koons' wife Cicciolina made, and we were just trying to figure out what was going on. The idea of women owning sexuality, and that was just happening. Women were making vanilla porn, basically, and it was just an interesting period of time. Like all of those images look not even that salacious now, to my eye anyway. There's somebody down here.
Do you feel like you resolved that, or do you think there's more work to be done? Kind of.
Well,
exploring
I'm moved on. Somebody will push it in another direction. You know, there's always something, you know, I've noticed. There'll be always something. There's always some kind of boundary we don't even know exists.
You were talking about some artists that supported you couldn't, I don't want to say defend you because that's not what you said, but couldn't speak out for you at the time?
It was too dangerous.
How did you
There was
deal
a
with
group
that?
there was this team, a really interesting art team called Pruitt and Early. I don't know if you've studied them at all, but they had to break up because they got just piled on. Same, you know, I mean, you get horrible reviews in the New York Times. It's hard to, you know, and then one reviewer even compared me to my idol, Cindy Sherman, and said, she was great and I was bad. So, I mean, how do you live through that, you know? Well, you do. It was all a period of time that, it all worked out. But I guess it is interesting, you know, looking back on it, because everyone always asks me these questions. I think that's it then. Thank you so much for coming.